What's the worst slash best thing you've ever seen happen at a wedding? When my uncle got married, the best man dropped the ring. In the dead silence of the church you could hear it back quoting, ting ting as it bounced along the floor, followed by one of the groomsmen stage whispering Jesus Christ loud enough for everyone to hear. The pastor didn't even bat an eye, just said, "The ring has already been blessed, thank you," and carried on. Roller skate wedding. Bride fell down and opened a gusher on her head. They finished the ceremony and took her to the hospital. She ended up needing emergency surgery to drain fluid buildup in her head and ended up having to relearn how to walk. The adverse effects were from the surgery that saved her life, not the accident itself. Sometimes to save someone, you gotta duck some crap up. My ex-husband and I were at his cousin's wedding. Another cousin of his, 25 male, was the groomsman. He was a giant guy, 6'4", roughly 400 pounds, and the life of the party, picking kids up and throwing them in the air, holding the groom on his shoulders, dancing like a maniac, having a blast. I went to the bathroom and came back to the reception to the music cut and everyone circled around the dance floor just panicked. There was Matt, completely purplish red, and on the floor, while a guest performed CPR and others were calling 911, taking his pulse, screaming. He passed away from a massive heart attack. Pronounced dead on the scene. The reception ended right then and there, obviously. The bride and groom were supposed to leave for their honeymoon to Hawaii that same evening. They ended up not going, and instead they stayed home to attend the funeral where the groom was a palbra. They rented a huge manor. Music? Not a problem. Spotify. Premium you ask? Nope, with the commercials. My wife was recently a bridesmaid for her friend who she hadn't really seen in a few years. It was actually a nice wedding, and the reception was also pretty nice. Unfortunately, the groomsman my wife was paired with was under the impression that she was going to go home with him after the wedding. Me and my wife have been together for almost 20 years, and some rando she met 1 or 2 times is going to sweep her off her feet when her husband and kid are in the same room. A guest let their children play in the kitchen a couple hours before the wedding despite repeatedly being told not to let their children in there, among other things. Apparently they'd been misbehaving a lot. The kids destroyed the wedding cake. I believe they were related to the bride somehow and that's why they were there so early. My best friend's biological father, who took off when she was very young, threw a fit and made everyone from his family leave because my best friend did her father-daughter dance with her stepdad, who has raised her in her father's absence. At my wedding, the maid of honor gave a 15-minute speech that did nothing but reference her breakup, and then me and my wife's prior relationships in gruesome detail. Longest 15 minutes of my life. We are no longer married. There was a couple who had been best friends forever, like many years. They never put the boyfriend/girlfriend label on anything, but they were both in the military, lived together, and were an item long before they introduced each other as girlfriend and boyfriend. By the time they started dating, they only really dated for about a year before they got married, even though they'd effectively been together for over a decade. Their families knew each other. Everyone who knew them knew they were going to eventually get married. It wasn't weird if you knew them. During their wedding, they were brought to the dance floor to play some kind of nilly-what game while the DJ, who didn't know them, mcked the event. He asked how long they dated, to which they said just under a year. The DJ goes on this rant about how he can't believe people that only know each other for a short period of time and get married. He unironically asked them if they understood that they were getting married, and that he seriously doubted that they'd known each other for long enough to make that kind of commitment. Yikes. The minister was doing their speech during the ceremony and asked, rhetorically, "What is love?" "Baby don't hurt me" was muttered by several groomsmen, who all started cracking up. Worst, the very drunk groom screaming in the face of the wedding planner, me, because the bar ran out of Grey Goose. We wouldn't have been able to keep serving him anyway, or when a different bride's uncle showed up, to deliver the wedding cake, and he didn't secure it in his car, so the whole thing toppled over. Gay male wedding in England. Registrar stands at front of the ceremony before starting the vows and for some inexplicable reason says, "Get your rings ready, boys." Cue 30 gays bursting out in uncontrollable laughter, and the older family members at the front looking round confused and or disapprovingly. The bride and groom are at the altar. The minister is speaking, saying something to the effect of, "We are here in the presence of friends and family who are all here to give this union their blessing." To which the groom's mother stands up and says, "No, not everyone. I do not give this my blessing." It was both horrible and kind of hilarious. The bride's ex-gate crashed the wedding, snatched the garland, equivalent to ring, from the groom, and tried to place it on the bride. He was thrashed by almost everyone close to the bride or the groom. I'm not one of them. The police we called, and I left after that, but the marriage took place. My uncle is very cheap, and he did not order any tables/chairs for the reception and none of us knew about it before, so everyone just kinda awkwardly stood around and ate the food. Some people sat on the floor. The bride's two sisters recited the bridal shower speeches, word for word, from the movie Bridesmaids. Didn't change anything, and the majority of the attendees did not get it. That was the entirety of their toast. It was completely impersonal, and so awkward to experience. Best thing ever. My cousin's wedding was so unique. She did it in the Strand Theatre, by her friend with an online certificate to marry them. Then for their first dance as a wedded couple, they were taking forever. So right when I'm about to ask what's taking so long, Jurassic Park theme song comes on and out come both of them in the inflatable dinosaur costumes. Best wedding ever. Not even mine will be able to live up to it. Officiant at a conservative Christian wedding said during his talk, "So, the wedding night. During my wedding night, there was something I wanted to do, but I was too nervous to ask for it, so I didn't say anything. But I encourage you two to do it. And that thing is kneel and pray together." Best man lost it, and luckily it broke the tension. Hands down the awkwardest moment of my life. My friend left her fiancé at the altar. She told him an hour or so beforehand it was off, but he thought she was being dramatic, so he showed up anyway. Her parents were very happy she called it off. They had to be told to stop smiling so much at the reception. The bride passed out on the bathroom floor by 8 p.m. Her parents and sister had already walked out due to her speech. She did not really mean to be tactless. The minister walked out before dessert because of her language. But the mother of the groom was so classy. She cared for her as though nothing was wrong, and instead of being horrified, merely said she had had a big day. Bride and groom were arguing when they arrived. At the reception, the groom kept chugging back wine by the bottle and passed out before speeches even happened. Poor guy had to be carried out by his groomsmen. Best wedding ever. I hate wedding speeches. Went to a wedding of a former friend. Groom, 18 at the time, and bride, 17 at the time and heavily pregnant, decided that morning they wanted to get married. Manipulated my husband's grandmother into buying a couple $100 of decorations and set the thing up at a park pavilion they didn't rent out. It was November and so cold, the bride's sister ended up stealing industrial plastic wrap from her job to create a wind barrier. The main problem that day was the bride's sister. The wedding went as follows. Bride's sister let her child play loud phone games for half the ceremony, confiscated the phone, resulting in the child screaming for the rest of the ceremony, proceeded to text her incarcerated boyfriend mid-ceremony, answered a phone call from said incarcerated boyfriend mid-ceremony, looked at her sister and the groom like they were the rude ones for interrupted her call with their wedding, left early after promising to help with cleanup, but left her screaming child for the bride and mother of bride to take care of, and in turning the park public bathroom into a backwater bridal suite and a Kermit and Miss Piggy topped wedding cake that fell apart, and you have one cluster fudge of a wedding. The worst thing I saw happen was a groom playing PUBG Mobile at his own wedding. Thank you for watching Internet's Funniest Please like, share, and subscribe.